Despite the violence constantly making headlines across the border, what's often overlooked in the news is the positive in Mexico. This evening, ABC 7's Paul Cicala begins a 6-part series.
It's focusing on our border state of Chihuahua and the government's efforts to promote an area where tourism is picking up once again, the Sierra Tarahumara. Paul joins us live with more. Paul?
Slowly but surely, violence is dropping south of the border, especially when you get away from the volatile region of Ciudad Juarez. And tourism in Mexico is back on the rise. Here in El Paso, we are just a 3-hour bus ride away from Chihuahua City, the launching off point for the historic train called CHEPE. With camera in hand, I travel from the capital of the state of Chihuahua to Sinaloa on Mexico's west coast and back once again. Copper Canyon. The Barranca de Cobre, 4 times the size of Arizona's Grand Canyon, home to one of the biggest indigenous groups in Latin America, the Tarahumaras. Micaela tells me in her native tongue this is beautiful land and it should be visited by all. So we did just that, as have scores of other travelers.
Yeah, we felt fairly safe.
And so did I. Let's just take a moment to appreciate the brilliance of this journey. We're talking about a train ride that goes through 87 tunnels, 35 bridges, hundreds of miles from Chihuahua City to Los Mochis, Sinaloa, from up to 7,500 feet high down to sea level. What a trip. This is CHEPE. Over the next 5 days, we'll take you through train stops such as the historic colonial town of El Fuerte, Sinaloa, and introduce you to travelers like the Holman family.
11, including the baby.
All from San Diego.
All from San Diego.
We'll show you stunning views from the canyons near Urique and Cerro Cawi. Then, how about the risk, reward, and rush of the longest zipline system in Latin America? Or experiencing the 3rd longest aerial tramway ride in the world. And staying in an Indian village in a cabin without electricity, spending a night just like the Tarahumaras. Ending the journey in Chihuahua City, the old stomping grounds of revolutionary leader Pancho Villa and the place where Mexican independence hero Father Miguel Hidalgo was executed by a firing squad.
Here we invite everyone in your area, El Paso, Las Cruces, Ciudad Juarez, to come and visit this beautiful area.
And I invite you to enjoy this trek through our neighboring state of Chihuahua.
Yo soy del mero Chihuahua.
Well, I'll have a different story from Mexico and the Sierra Tarahumara every night this week, starting tomorrow. Now, coming up on ABC 7 at 10, I'll begin the trek at a popular stop on the western end of the train route, El Fuerte, Sinaloa. Also have more on security in the train itself. That is tomorrow night and throughout all of this week. Reporting live, I'm Paul Cicala. Back to you.
Feels like we're almost there, Paul. Forward to it.
I recently took the 3-hour bus ride from El Paso to Chihuahua City and then boarded the train called CHEPE for its initials Che and Pe. It's named after its route, the Chihuahua Pacifico. The train runs between Chihuahua City and Los Mochis, Sinaloa. And tonight, we are starting off our adventure at the farthest point on the trip, near the Pacific coast, working our way back inland to the capital of Chihuahua. The historic CHEPE train, traveling 400 miles of railroad. I was fortunate enough to ride and film from the nose of the cab. The first stop is a colonial gem. The town I'm in right now, El Fuerte, Sinaloa, is a popular stop along the CHEPE route. It's about 60 miles from the Chihuahua state line and another 60 miles from Los Mochis. Los Mochis, Sinaloa, of course, is the westernmost stop of the CHEPE. The CHEPE Railroad is considered an engineering wonder that took decades and millions of dollars to build. It finally opened in 1961 and was recently remodeled.
I thought it was pretty fun.
As the Holman family from San Diego learned firsthand, all 11 of them, the train crosses some of Mexico's most rugged terrain, hugging the edge of the Sierra Madre Mountains, crossing deep, awe-inspiring ravines.
I think it's pretty safe compared to San Diego. Like, it's not much different to me.
It's no secret that there have been isolated incidents of violence right here in the state of Sinaloa and, of course, the state of Chihuahua, Mexico. But for the most part, tourists have not been the targets of that violence. In fact, here on the train, there are a number of police officers, not only inside, but also at all the stops, including this one at Divisadero, Chihuahua.
News about how unsafe Chihuahua it is, it's been very unfair because this has scared the tourists.
Tour guide Pedro Palma points out the U.S. State Department's warning about travel in Chihuahua is misleading because most of the violence making headlines happens in Juarez, not in the heart of the state.
One thing I can tell you, not a single tourist had been bothered by the drug lords.
It'd be a lie to say that we weren't nervous about it.
Tourists Penny Newton and Carrie Harris say after spending a week along the CHEPE route,
I feel fine, certainly around here. I mean, it's amazing there's very few tourists with such a lovely place, which is a bit of a shame.
I don't see any danger at all.
all the Holmans and other tourists see is a land rich in nature.
This is Tarahumara country
And culture. The language spoken in that region, that means come visit the Sierra Tarahumara, something we very well did. Also, might add that we worked with the Chihuahua Department of Tourism in order to highlight the best places to go. And for full disclosure, they did cover a portion of the trip. Coming up tomorrow night on ABC 7 at 10, I'll take you to Cerocahui, Chihuahua, in the Copper Canyon town of Urique. Back to you, Estella and Rick.
Very interesting. Look forward to all your reports. It's beautiful out there.
It certainly is.
Well, on our website, you can find a link about the CHEPE and information on the Copper Canyon. Just click on the hot button. Also, you can see other parts of the series you may have missed.
Beautiful scenery.
Yes, it is.
From stunning waterfalls to breathtaking cliffs, the train trek across Chihuahua's Copper Canyon has been a draw for tourists for decades. The violence in Mexico has dimmed some of its glory, but ABC 7's Paul Cicala decided to take a vacation there anyway and document the experience. Here he is with part 3 of his 6-part series, Cicala in Chihuahua. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Rick. The Reader's Digest is called Mexico's famous Copper Canyon Railroad trip, the most dramatic train ride in the Western Hemisphere. And I experienced firsthand that the magazine was right on the money. Today, I'll take you to Bahuichivo, Cerocahui, and the Canyon of Urique, and also I'll show you the vineyards of the Sierra Madre. As the historic CHEPE train heads inland through numerous towns, tunnels, and bridges, we pass the waterfall at Temoris, one of the most scenic, stunning stops along the route. And then we arrived at Bahuichivo. A 45-minute bus ride later, the charming farming town of Cerocahui.
People are really friendly. It's been a great trip.
Jake Forche, a Michigan native, says what drew his attention most in this area was...
Yeah, pretty much everything. I mean, you could just drive around and look out the window and you'd have a great time here. Just the scenery is fantastic.
And it goes beyond the scenery. The locals also live off the land. And this region has many apple orchards. It also has peaches, pine trees, and of course, what you see right here, grapes for wine production. The vineyards were originally put in by Spanish missionaries in the 18th century and recently revived by the owners of the rustic lodge there. Also in Cerocahui, the Jesuit mission of San Francisco, completed in the 1700s. And the highlight of the area, a hike or short ride to Urique, the deepest canyon in the Sierra Tarahumara, more than 6,100 feet from top to bottom, with its own semi-tropical climate below. I guess the more adventurous side of me came out in our little journey here. I saw what looks like a Tarumaru basket of some sort, and I went down to get it, and then I realized how close I was to the edge. That is the small town of Urique. That's the Urique River that runs through the bottom of the canyon. If I were to fall down this very second, I would tumble to my death thousands of meters below. So I think I'm going to make my way right back up to dry land, so to say.
Sí, pues para que visiten también los Tarahumaras, ¿no?
Jose Manuel Valenzuela, a resident of Cerocahui, says this is a great place to visit with the local Tarahumara Indians and even trek to the bottom of the canyon with guides from the tribe.
I feel perfectly safe here.
And as for Jake, do you feel like you'd recommend this to other Americans?
Oh, absolutely. We're coming back here for sure.
That makes 2 of us. Thank you, Cerocahui, for allowing us in to visit your peaceful picturesque pueblo. Afterward, I took the local bus from Cerocahui back to the CHEPE train stop and headed to one of the highest points in the Sierra Tarahumara, Divisadero. Coming up on ABC 7 at 10 p.m. tomorrow night, I'll show you what it's like to go zip gliding in an area 4 times the size of the Grand Canyon. Reporting live, I'm Paul Cicala. Back to you.
Hey, better you than me on that zip gliding. All right, thank you. Great work out there, Paul. Here's part 4 of his 6-part series, Cicala in Chihuahua.
It's the longest zipline system in Latin America. This is Tarahumara country in the heart of Chihuahua's Sierra Tarahumara. All within a day's drive from El Paso. It's the Copper Canyon Adventure Park.
El arnés del cable.
Rodrigo Cervantes, a tourist from Mexico City, tells me the burst of adrenaline is like no other. So I figured I'd try it out for myself. And just my luck. On the first of 7 drops, I learned the hard way, if you don't control your speed well, you may experience the rush or the scare of being stuck midair. KVIA producer Joe Villasana had a similar experience. It had to be rescued by a local guide. I didn't know I needed that much momentum. But after a couple more runs, including scary slips, I felt confident enough to zip line with just one hand. So I could hold the camera and film the canyon with the other. Wow, just like flying. In this case, almost 1,500 feet above. A thought also shared by tourist Alejandro Lozano.
I feel an emotion very special.
The zipline tours here in Chihuahua, Mexico's Copper Canyon cost less than $60. Very inexpensive. And get this, for the more adventurous, there's also mountain climbing tours. That means they get to go on Tarzan-like swings and also go over many suspended bridges.
All your fault, Paul.
Bridges like this one, which is part of the hike between zipline stops. This part of Copper Canyon, Divisadero, has an altitude of around 7,500 feet. It's one of the highest points in the entire state of Chihuahua, Mexico.
And here we are in beautiful Copper Canyons.
And what better way to end the tour than swaying back and forth on the now famous Piedra Volada. Qué chido. Inches away from a cliff with a drop of around 1,000 feet. It's too scary for tourist Essie Ponce, so she tells me she prefers the less strenuous activity of coasting forward on the 3rd longest aerial tramway ride in the world, around 1.5 miles long.
Se van a enamorar, en pocas palabras.
Falling in love with the Sierra Tarahumara and loving life even more after surviving the Copper Canyon Adventure Park.
Vengan a visitarlos.
Reporting from Divisadero, Chihuahua, Mexico, Paul Cicala, ABC 7. Muy bien, gracias.
Wow. Well, in tomorrow night's special report from Chihuahua, Paul Cicala will spend the night in the Tarahumara village.
It's home to the largest canyon in this hemisphere, 4 times the size of the Grand Canyon. Tonight, Paul takes us to the Barranca del Cobre. Here's part 5 of his 6-part series, Cicala in Chihuahua.
As the historic CHEPE train leaves Divisadero, Chihuahua and winds eastward through the canyon, we arrive at Creel. After a short bus ride, we pull up to the town of Cusarare, home to hundreds of Tarahumara Indians. Jose Guadalupe Santiago says his family lives well off the land. However, as his wife Maria puts it, visitors can buy their goods and the town is desperate for tourists.
Sí, me gustaría ver que vinieran más turistas, más americanos.
More Americans, says Catalina Gonzalez, to visit the town's museum and church. The original mission of Cusarare was built back in 1741 by the Jesuit fathers. It was expanded to what you see here back in 1826. And get this, to this day, there's still no electricity in this village, but the Tarahumara people that I talk to say that's exactly the way they want it. I'm fortunate enough to learn firsthand what it's like to live without many modern amenities we enjoy every day in the U.S. by spending the night in a Tarahumara village. An experience that includes a traditional meal with the food prepared especially by Tarahumaras. It's something different, says Roberto Venegas Loya, who's also staying in the village.
Muy casero.
It's homemade. As you can tell, it's not the best of lighting in my cabin hotel room. Why is that? Well, there's no electricity, but that's part of the overall experience. Living the way thousands of Tarahumara Indians live every single day. Light from gas lamps like this here, and heat the good old-fashioned way from fireplaces. And the mountains here in the state of Chihuahua go beyond the beautiful culture of the Tarahumara Indians. In the nearby valley of Arareco, there's a series of awe-inspiring rock formations, many shaped like mushrooms. Also, the majestic waterfall of Cusarare.
Grew up between El Paso and Juarez.
Carilu Forche, who now lives in Michigan, is showing her husband Jake the Sierra Tarahumara for the first time.
So he could actually see that it's safe, you know, that you can have fun and people are so friendly and the place is just beautiful.
We haven't seen any kind of signs of any problems.
And after 4 days in the heart of Copper Canyon, neither did I. Sunlight or snow, it's been all smiles. And now back to the CHEPE train, headed east for the next stop, Chihuahua City. Reporting from the Sierra Tarahumara in Mexico, Paul Cicala, ABC 7.
And coming up tomorrow night at 10 o'clock, Paul will end his 6-part series with a report from Chihuahua City. As ABC 7's Paul Cicala has been showing us all week, there is a lot of good being overlooked. Over the last week, Paul took us from the Mexican coastal state of Sinaloa through the Sierra Tarahumara, and now he ends the 6-part series with a final destination, Chihuahua City.
After 4 days and hundreds of miles bouncing on and off stops along the historic CHEPE train route, we're almost to our final destination, Chihuahua City. But 2 hours away, we venture into the outskirts of the state's 3rd largest city, Cuauhtémoc, twice the size of Las Cruces. We witnessed the traditional local rodeo, where this Mexican cowboy invites everyone to the show. Back on the train we go, and I invite you to our final destination, the state's capital.
Very cosmopolitan town.
Cosmopolitan with an old Mexico colonial feel, especially downtown, where Chihuahua's cathedral stands tall. Construction of the historic cathedral here in the city of Chihuahua began in 1725, but because of raids from Apaches and other indigenous groups, it wasn't completed until over 100 years later. And as you can see, much like 3 centuries ago, this area still revolves around the cathedral. Chihuahua City is also the former stomping grounds of revolutionary fighter Pancho Villa. This was his old hacienda, now a museum. And Chihuahua's revolutionary past goes well beyond Pancho Villa. Father Miguel Hidalgo was the principal figure in Mexico's independence movement against Spain. And most people don't realize this, but he was taken prisoner right here in the city of Chihuahua, and he was executed in this very area. In 1811, when Father Hidalgo was killed, this was actually a Jesuit college, but now it's the state capitol building. And as you can see, they still pay tribute to Father Hidalgo and what he did for Mexico. Still home to a rich past and still a very modern city, says Chihuahua's Director of Tourism, Rogelio Grea Vitia. And with tourism on the rise, this historic gem of a city also has a bright future. And after winding down this whirlwind tour, a reminder from the locals of how much they depend on outside visitors.
We really miss the American tourists. We feel that people from El Paso, Las Cruces area need to be here.
Hoping there truly is light at the end of the tunnel. Reporting from Chihuahua, Paul Cicala, ABC 7.
If you missed any of Paul's previous stories from the series, you can see them online at kvia.com. On our website, you can also find information on the CHEPE train and the Copper Canyon. Just click on the hot button. That was great, Dave. 6-part series started last Sunday and it's wrapped up tonight.
Everyone was interested.
Yes.